Yeah, actually, it might be okay.
Okay,
Let's give it a whirl.
all right. And if not, we've got some blooper B-roll film of us just talking shit.
Hardcore.
Um, cool. Hi everyone. Welcome to our second episode of the Two Bees podcast on ADHD Lounge. I'm Dan, and
I'm Katie, and we are your co-hosts coming to you today to talk about what are we talking about, Dan?
we were going to do like time management and stuff today. Which we've handled very poorly, doing half an hour or so of technical shenanigans.
Yeah, I feel like we're maybe the last type of people to be giving advice on time management. But I mean, like
Yeah.
I'm not too I don't know, I feel like mostly kind of have time management stuff wrapped. Um, do you find it hard?
Um, yeah, I do. I find it I find it quite hard. I find it hard to distinguish between 5 minutes and an hour. Sometimes, it's like,
Yep.
yeah. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and she's saying she feels like time blindness from being 20, and now
Oh,
being like 38. She's like, am I still the same person as then? Like, it feels like there's no difference, and I can kind of relate to that. Sort of
yes.
like feeling like you got to a point in life and then just time kept going.
Yeah, I often feel like that, to be honest. I either feel like I'm like have all of the time or I have no time. I don't feel
Yeah,
like I don't ever feel like I've got an in between. And it's like, I don't know, I find it really stressful.
yeah. Do you find if you have like something on in the afternoon, it's really hard to do anything like up until that point? If you know
Yes.
you have like an appointment or something.
Hardcore. Like, I don't know. I call it waiting mode. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
procrastination mode. It's like you can't do anything else because you know if
yeah,
you do something else, then you might end up getting caught up. And then I don't know. It's not necessarily an appointment, but for me, it's like if I know I have a task or like a client and I know that they're going to be showing up, I have to have a considerable amount of time, like 2 hours, in order to do anything else. Otherwise, I literally have to just like do tiny tasks that I know are going to fit
yeah.
within the time frame. It's
Yeah.
really weird. Time blindness is such an odd concept, hey?
Yeah, it's really strange. I put a reel on, I think, the YouTube channel a while ago, and there was a comment on there. A guy said, "Time blindness is just an excuse for the weak and incompetent, or something." And I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, I don't know about that." So I went and wrote a big article on the website, and like posted him a link. I was like, "How about you go and have a little read?" And yeah, it's a really hard one to explain to someone that doesn't get it. That yeah, yeah. How do you explain just not being able to sort of see, or just getting caught out often?
I feel like so time blindness is related to obviously executive functioning manages our perception of time, and also like um a lot of people who are neurodiverse struggle with dyspraxia too, which is like basically where your body is in space and time. So of course your brain, if it struggles with where your body is in space and time, I feel like it's not weird to realize that your brain actually struggles with where it is in space and time and how to manage time. um, so basically, it's more like the same as like with emotional regulation, where your brain can't tell the difference between a little deal and a big deal. I feel like
Yeah,
maybe it's like our brain can't tell the difference between a long time and a short time. Um, I think, yeah, potentially it manifests like that. And I mean, I'm either early, like 30 minutes early to something, or I'm either 15 minutes to 30 minutes late for something. There's like
yeah,
but I try and leave at least half an hour early to where I'm supposed to be because I know that at least half an hour is going to give me at least a bit of grace time, like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on where I'm going. So it's just like a general blanket rule for me now.
yeah. I feel like you've got to factor in having to find your keys when you leave the house, and phone. Like, um,
Hardcore.
so many times I've like left it to the last minute to go somewhere, and it's just like, oh, okay, sweet. I'm checking Google Maps. I'm like, right, it'll take me 11 minutes to get to wherever it is, and then I go to leave at the last minute, and then I'm scrambling around, like turning my room upside down, trying to find my
Trying to get
keys.
your
Just
keys.
also, my loose debit card, which I haven't seen for like 3 or 4 business days.
Is that the most
Um,
ADHD thing you've done this week, is lose your debit card
yeah,
again?
yeah, and like I know I don't need to cancel it. Like I know it's in my car or like in a pair of shorts or something. You know what I mean? It'll be somewhere ridiculous. But yeah, I've got my pay thing set up on the phone now, so I moved
Oh,
into
it's honestly,
a new century.
yes, listeners,
Yeah,
if you don't have your wallet on your iPhone set up with your card inside of it, I got a so basically the bank, they told me like a year ago that if I didn't stop losing my card, they were going to start charging me for all of the cards that I was like, because I think I lost
you lost a
like
few, didn't you?
yeah, like something like six in the space of like 6 months. It was us going through like one a card a month. And it was
Yeah,
because I had a little pocket on the back of my phone. I'd take my card out and then I would like go to pay for something, obviously not put it back in the card, like leave it somewhere random. And the bank was like, hey, if you keep losing your card, we're going to charge you. And so I was like, oh, and then the guy on the banking phoned me, like telling me this. He was like, "Do you know what? You should just you come on, let's just set you up on the wallet on your iPhone." I was like, "What is this?"
yeah,
And he was like, "Oh my god, it's like PayWave. Come on, set it up." And I
yeah,
was like, "Okay." And I did it. And ever since I put put the PayWave wallet on my phone, I have not lost my debit card since because it just stays in my purse. So if
yeah.
you don't have it set up,
Nice.
do it. Honestly, it's a game changer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad I've got that, but I still need to find the card. Um,
Or
but
just
then
set
I
it
think
up.
I will. Well, no, just in general. I think I should. I should find it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Because not everywhere is PayWave, and also because it's a debit card that's floating around in the world somewhere. Yeah. So that's the most ADHD thing I've done this week. What about you?
um I'm pretty sure the most ADHD thing I have done this week so far is been looking for the pepper, like a pepper grinder,
Mm,
for about 25 minutes, walking
yeah.
around, looking in the cupboard, being like, I can't find it, standing on a stool, getting down, like, where did I leave it somewhere else around the house, walking around the house. Anyway, it was in the fridge. Obviously, I'd
Perfect.
been like taking other stuff out of the fridge and just put it back in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's happened to me. That was really fun. And then also, was away this weekend, and I asked my mum where my phone was, and she said to me, "The one you're holding," and I went, "Oh, yep, that one."
Oh, nice.
I was like, "Hey, I'll just Google Maps where we're going," and then I was like, "Hey, do you know where my phone is?" She was like, "It's in your hand," and I was like, "Oh, yep, yep."
Oh,
So that
okay.
as well.
The worst is when it's at night and you're using the light on your phone to look around for it, and like
Yes, yes. Oh
you've
my god, I've done
unlocked
that.
your phone to get there, like
Yep,
you should
yep.
you should be able to find it.
I've done
We
that
got some
before too.
questions. Yeah. We got
Ooh,
some questions
amazing.
on Instagrams. Um,
Are they
32.
relating are they relating to time?
No,
We
but
should probably let
we
the
can answer
people
them at the end
know
then.
the questions or the time.
Okay, well, there are some questions and they're not about time. Except one
Okay.
guy one guy wants to know why he can't find his vape because it was just in his hand, which I thought was quite
Oh,
which I thought was quite a good one. After didn't we send a meme or something the other didn't no, maybe I was just sending you that question. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny because I feel like that's a big problem for a lot of ADHDers that
hardcore.
do that.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I was just like, maybe we should tackle the time thing first. This is classic ADHD conversation, by the way.
yeah.
We should do it first before we go off onto a million other tangents. And then they're like, hey, I'm just waiting for the info about the time, peoples, you two bees. Um, so what do you do to
Great
help?
time management. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what do I do to help? I guess one thing I find really helps with time and also executive function is setting timers for a short time to do tasks.
Oh
Like
my God. I saw a
setting
thing.
like 20-minute timer or something, and it's like, right, start the timer, start cleaning your car or your room or whatever the task is you have to do, and then
Yeah.
that you know that in 20 minutes it's going to end. You know what I mean? Rather than starting
Yeah.
something and then you're stuck in it, and then you could either have a little break and then go back to it. But I find that really helps to get things started, because you think, right, I'm going to do a
Mm,
chunk of this, but you know you're giving yourself a 20-minute window or something like that. So seeing an end really kind of helps. So that's like a little bit of, I guess, sort of managing time and productivity. Um,
yeah, because I got told that like timers like just weren't a thing and that like they weren't that good for us. But to be fair, when like when I use I wear a watch and like so like
yeah,
I book my clients in hour slots and 45-minute slots and stuff, and I use my watch all the time to figure out like I've got this amount of time left, things like that.
yeah.
So I mean that is a way of using a timer.
So managing your clients, so they come for 45 minutes, and you book them on the hour, so you give yourself like a 15-minute window,
I mean,
or you try to.
sometimes yes, but most of the time I just go back to back.
Yeah,
It's ruthless, and I would definitely not suggest anybody else do this. But I go into flow state, and so
yeah,
I find it easier to just like have no transition time. And it's like I think it's because it means that my brain stays in work mode instead of like trying to like process and then get back into work mode. It's easier if I just stay in the same mode. Um,
yeah. Otherwise, you
I
snap out
guess,
of that focus, and
yeah.
it's gone. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then I'm just like realize like, oh, I'm tired or I'm hungry or like, whatever. And then I just feel like it takes me a little while to get back onto the same vibe again. And so I
yeah,
normally will just go back to back. But they say that as well, like doing big blocks of time um and focus is also like really not good unless you're in hyper focus doing something you love, which is flow state. So
yeah,
that's actually
yeah.
regenerative and restorative versus say you're like you go into like a hyper focus or forced hyper focus on something that like is work related. So like maybe you're making a PowerPoint presentation and it's like a
Um,
lot of work for your brain.
what do you mean regenerative?
Ooh,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I
there's
know what the word means, but
yeah, so there's like a lot of research done on ADHD and neurodiverse brains saying that like hyperfocus and flow state on something that's like relaxing or that you genuinely love creates a flow state. So it's like almost like your brain can rest while doing the thing that you love. So like for
yeah,
me, it's painting or doing art, and for lots of people, it's running. I go into flow state when I run. Some people go there when they're reading because they're
yeah,
imagining alternate universe, and it's like regenerative rest, or it's like single focus tasking. So it'd be like, I guess, gaming, right?
yeah.
So
So I guess it's active relaxing almost. Is that
yeah,
sort of
so
how it would be? Yeah, because
yeah,
I feel like that driving. Like if I'm driving,
mm,
I like driving, and I feel like, yeah, when I'm driving, it's a chance to not think about anything else. Like
yeah, it's like single
I give
minded.
myself
Yeah.
sort of a break, and it's like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to feel bad about this thing or that thing. It's like, just, yeah, drive the car and carry on.
Mm, yeah, it's I
Um,
would say they also talk about it's generally when you go into flow state you lose sense of all space and time. So you which I mean is not great for time management. But I cannot like on the flip side, I cannot be time restrained when I go into flow state. So if I'm out on a run, like I try to keep track of time so that if I've got to be back for something, I'm back or painting. But normally when you go into flow, you just like you'd look down and you'd be like, oh, 3 hours is gone. So
yeah,
I would recommend if like flow state's super important because it's kind of where an ADHD or neurodiverse brain relaxes, but yeah, on the flip side, do it on a day when you know that you're not time pressured because I find that I just actually end up irritable otherwise. Like,
yeah.
like, oh, I'm not going to have enough time.
I feel like when you do get into something like that, yeah, it's nice. It's good to know that you don't have to. There doesn't have to be like a cutoff for it. which is the
Yeah.
opposite of something that doesn't give you the dopamine that it's like, right, I'm going to put a 20-minute timer on it and only do 20 minutes of this task
Yeah.
before losing it. Yeah.
I got a really good tip from an occupational therapist in regards to flow state and then time management. She said to me, you should do something every single day that will put your brain into flow state because it's essentially how ADHD brains rest. And I said, okay, well, I like to paint, but I'll lose 3 hours. So I just don't do it on, long days. And she was just like, well, I'd recommend maybe starting the day with a bit of flow state because it's obviously
Mm.
makes you feel really good. And so I have tried starting my day with just like one painting. I'm like, I'm just going to do one and I'm just going to get it done. And then I find that my time management is a lot and my perception of time is a lot better in the mornings. So
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because you've got a
Interesting.
fresh brain. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't do mornings very well. Like
Interesting.
I'm much more. I'll stay up late at night. But I don't have to get up to go to work at 8 o'clock or anything. So it's sort of like
Mm,
if I can't sleep and my brain is on and doing something, I'll pick up my laptop and like even do some work or something.
yeah.
But then in the morning, I don't want. I'm not doing much.
That's
Drinking
really
coffee.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, drinking coffee. I mean, I guess some people operate better in the mornings than some people. I've trained
Mm.
myself into being like this because I've got to be up at like 5:15 every morning uh to PT. But I really like it now. I think
Yeah.
I've trained myself like a dog into loving mornings.
Yeah.
And when I get up and I prioritize some time for myself, and I don't rush into the day, so I'm like leave myself like an hour to get ready and to get organized, get my coffee, get dressed, do all the stuff. Honestly, it stretches out time and it feels um like I've got more of it. So I mean,
Yeah.
if you start the day not rushing, it kind of feels like you're on the front foot. So I definitely recommend to anybody who's struggling to feel like they have any time for themselves or can't get a grip on it. If you get up earlier and you don't overload and put your brain into panic as soon as you get up, you give yourself some time. I think it might actually be quite helpful. But I can only say, speaking from my own experience.
I feel like you're saying that to me is like just get a planner because because like I'm gonna snooze that alarm. I'll be like I'll set it half an hour earlier than normal because I want to like have a coffee and chill out before I go and do something, and then I will still be like, nah, I can get another 7 minutes sleep here, and
Oh,
I'll take it. I'll do anything to sleep until the last minute, and then I'll hate myself when I'm like
yeah,
running around the house trying to find
yeah.
my keys.
Trying to get your stuff. I
Yeah,
was the same. Honestly, I feel like I lived my life in that mode for so long that I got to a point where I was like, oh, I can't hack this anymore because
yeah.
the panic and slew was just like making me feel like I was tipping me over the edge. And so I read this book by Mel Robbins, which is called The 3 Second Rule, and basically she tells you that like there's something in our nervous system. So when we go 3, 2, 1, go, and it's like when you count backwards, it pulls your prefrontal cortex online, and you just like take action and
Wow.
go.
Yeah,
So I was like, whatever, the counting from three is not going to work. Honestly, when my alarm goes off, I go 3, 2, 1, go, and I'm out of bed. It's just
yeah.
because it doesn't give that, and you're just like you're online, you're going, and I
You
think it's
just
because
go.
it
Yeah,
doesn't give your brain enough time to kick in and go, no, I want to snooze, no, I'm still feel tired, you're just like already up. So
yeah.
I don't know, give that one a go because it seems to work for me.
I definitely do that if I have to do something that I don't want to do. I'll like count to three or like count down from three, and then I'll be like, okay, and then do the thing,
Do the thing, yes.
and it works. Yeah, I can't think of any specific examples of what the thing might be, but yeah, if
Taxes,
it
nobody
like,
wants to do taxes.
yeah, but that's not exciting enough to need a countdown. It's like if you're gonna jump into a pool or something, and I don't know. Yeah, silly things maybe, but it still it still helps. But I don't think it'll help me get up in the morning. I just think I'm definitely not a morning person. Never have been ever in my life.
Fair, that's
Um,
totally fair, but
yeah,
actually just try it, just try it, Dan, just try
just
it,
try to.
just try it, okay?
I I read this book a couple of years ago called The 5 a.m. Club,
Oh, I love
and
that book. Honestly, that
I
was like,
got
it was
all excited
amazing.
about it. Yeah, got all excited about it. I'm like, man, I'm going to start getting up so early. I'm going to do so much. And not for me.
Okay,
It's
well, the
just
5 a.m. club, ladies and gentlemen, did not work
yeah.
for Dan, but it
But
motivated
we'll.
me enough.
I thought it was really inspiring and actually a really good read. And we'll put a link
Mm.
in it down there for it.
Yeah, it's a
It
really
is
good
really
book.
good.
It's like
Mm,
very engaging because it's just like a made up story about a
yeah.
entrepreneur and an artist. And hey, it's like me and you.
I
Ah.
I would love to know what your image in your head is of the rich guy.
Oh.
Yeah,
He
of
kind
of the
honestly,
of the 5 a.m. guy. Yeah,
in my mind, he kind of looks uh like the guy from Castaway, you know, with the ball.
yeah,
He's like
yeah,
Wilson. And he looks like that, and except like ripped. Like, because he talks
yeah,
about in the book how he has like abs of steel. And
yeah.
so
And the first part of the description, you're not picturing that at all, and then it's
no.
like, oh, this dude's cut. Like
Yeah.
this dude's buff.
Yeah. So basically he just looked like Castaway. He looks like a hobo with like a very intense beard. Like, did he look
Yeah,
like that for you?
yeah, and I think like kind of long hair and
Yeah.
sort of quite straggly. And like, yeah, I'm picturing like a white linen shirt, half buttoned up.
Hardcore. Yes, that's exactly. I got that vibe as well.
Yeah,
And like very
yeah,
tanned.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, cool. We have the
yeah.
same
Okay.
mental image. So everybody
Yeah,
else,
yeah. It's
listen to
quite
the
funny.
5 a.m. Club, and we want to know what your mental images of the
Of the
guy who's
guy.
instructing looks like,
Yeah,
because it'd be funny if we all had a similar like
yeah.
visual, right?
And then what we're gonna get next week is messages from people like it describes them exactly like that in the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Honestly, I don't remember, but yeah,
Nah,
something like
it's
that.
but it's a really good book if you have to if you have to start sort of getting up early, and if you have a job that you have to get up early for and you have trouble getting up, I yeah would find it really sort of inspiring. I think because
Mm,
I don't have a need to have to get up in the morning, and I'm very lucky that I can do that. But yeah, if I had to, I think it would help me a lot because having that extra time in the morning and not having to rush somewhere, otherwise it
mm.
cooks the whole rest of your day.
Yeah, honestly, it does. And
Mm,
then I like, then I feel like I'm on the back foot. And I get to a
yeah.
point where I almost feel like I'm going to have a meltdown because I just feel like I don't have my stuff together. And I honestly, I feel like a lot of the time, neurodiverse folks, we kind of feel like we don't have our stuff together anyway. And you're just like, oh, so then it's like, it's compounding. Like, I feel like it makes it even worse.
It
So for the
snowballs, yeah.
last, yeah, and it just gets to the point of overwhelm. And I notice that I go through patterns of being like motivated because I'm like, yeah, I want to do something about this. I don't want to constantly feel overwhelmed or unhinged, like I'm about to have a meltdown, like
Mm,
multiple times a day because I just feel burnt out. Um, and then I get to the point where I'm like, I'm going to start getting up early again and like giving myself an hour to get organized and just get into my day and like take some time to meditate. And then I'll like do it for a while and then it hits winter and then I'm like, I hate getting up early in winter. It's cold. I hate the
yeah.
cold.
It's
And so then
dark.
yeah, it's dark, screw
Yeah.
this. And then I sleep
Yeah.
in and then I notice I like decline again. So it's like, it's definitely something to do with circadian rhythm, with the
Mm,
same sleep and wake times every day and then the routine and then just taking the extra time for myself. It does make a difference. But I feel like, I get my partner to hold me accountable. And he's kind of like, he said to me, like, even last winter, like when I started, I was like, no, I want more sleep. He was like, you mentally and physically, even like you can tell by like your happiness, like you are so much more relaxed and happy and less anxious when you get up early and take time for yourself. And so I try and remind myself of that when I'm like, no, I just like, I
yeah.
don't. Yeah. So
Uh, Um,
it's helpful for me, but I can't say it's going to be helpful for everybody else.
yeah. Is Kurt really on time and punctual?
Yes. Well, like,
Yeah.
for our listeners, my husband has obsessive compulsive disorder. And it's actually really crazy because we looked at brain scans about OCD and ADHD, and his brain lights up in the areas that mine is pretty shit at lighting up in. And so we kind of like make this one super brain together.
Yeah.
But
Fun.
he's very vigilant, he's very punctual, and so like um he is really good at keeping me on track. And ever since I met him, I definitely noticed that my time management has been better because he gives me these, oh, okay, this is a really awesome tip. Okay, ping,
Yeah.
tip number 4 or something. He comes in when we're going somewhere and he'll be like, hey, this is a half an hour countdown. We're going to leave in half an hour. So if you want to get anything done, if you want to go get dressed, if you want to do your makeup, like I'd suggest you start doing it now because we're leaving in 30
Yeah.
minutes. And
Awesome.
I'm like, okay. And then off I go. And then he's like, comes in at 15 minutes. He goes, Shug, here's your 15-minute warning. We're leaving in 15 minutes. If you're not dressed, you need to get dressed now. And I'm like, okay. And then, so by the time it gets to like, he's like, we'll be like, hey, we've got 5 minutes. We're walking out the door. I'm like ready to go. And so
Yeah.
it's actually really helpful because I like to do makeup and I often go into hyperfocus when I like start playing around with makeup and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's really, really handy for me for him to come in and like give me, it's like a human alarm,
Yeah.
but like less
That's really cool.
intrusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I
Yeah.
think like body doubling is supposed to be really good for things like that too. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you guys have formed really good sort of coping and good and healthy coping mechanisms between you,
Yeah.
for different things. It's interesting to think that with I have not had I have had some partners over the same kind of time frame, but
Mm.
you'd been having that solid person for that sort of for that time frame. It's just very interesting to think of how different like the last 10 years of our lives are,
Mm. Yeah,
and
totally.
and and the different things that I struggle with and different things that you struggle with that have like different, I don't know, just figuring out different ways to deal with things. And I think
And
having that solid person, that constant, is
yeah,
um a huge bonus. Yeah.
hardcore. I think like it's really hard when you are neurodiverse and to like I can only speak from my own experience. Like a lot of the times, like I often will feel like the thing is really hard or I'm not going to be this I don't know, this sounds really bad. I feel like I'm not going to be successful at it and I might fail at it or people might think that I'm stupid. So often I just like will avoid trying the new thing or avoid
Yeah.
continuing on with the routine or the plan or the schedule or the time that I've carved out for myself because there's other stuff that I need to do or like that I'm falling behind on. So, like if I carve out time for myself and I've committed like, okay, I'm going to meditate in this time because I know like it's proven that by doing meditation, it's really good for a neurodiverse brain to like process stuff, like especially emotions. Um, I often find that like I'll just be unloading the washing from the washing machine in that time because I forgot about it and I have to hang it out. And then Kurt will be like, hey, isn't this your meditation time? I can see it in your diary. I'm like, yeah, but and he'll just be like, here, like I'll go hang it out or just go and do your meditation. Come and do this when you get back. So it's actually really handy having a partner who knows your kind of pitfalls and
Mm,
then also is like supportive because I know sometimes partners can be quite dismissive and be like, oh, that's not a thing. But I think
yeah.
Kurt has like, we have been together for like almost 11 years now. And he obviously lived with me and has been my partner the entire time. And I only got diagnosed 3 years ago. And so like he watched me really struggle and fight through a lot of stuff around like anxiety and just feel like really bad self-esteem. So I think he's actually seen the struggle. And so he like, when we found out, he was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. And so then he
Yeah.
found ways to help me and research ways to help me. And so it's been really awesome to have somebody support. So I mean, if
Yeah.
even if you don't have that from a partner, like if you have that from some
Mm.
family members, so like parents if you're still at home, or like a flatmate who understands or is compassionate, a best friend, like
A
anybody who
stranger on the internet.
a stranger
Like,
on the internet,
yeah.
like doing body
Yeah.
doubling together over like what a kit does like focus
What's
mate.
that thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's
Focus
like
mate.
focus mate.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can do body doubling where you're like, I'm gonna clean my house in this hour and you're on your little internet cameras
And then,
together.
yeah, someone else is like matching their Tupperware containers or something. You
Yes.
know,
Honestly, it's like, it's just like nice to have like somebody who will help you out, who already knows you like stuff that's hard for you, and whether that is a stranger
Mm,
as well who's neurodiverse versus um maybe a partner or flatmate who just finds it incredibly infuriating. And it's really hard, of course, when we find it incredibly infuriating, to have somebody else also compound on that and be like, can you just take the washing out of the washing machine? Like, yes,
yeah.
I wish I could when it
Yeah.
finished, but I forgot that it finished, you know?
And now I'm putting the machine back on, and this is just a reminder to anyone
Yes.
watching, you probably have some washing in one of your machines. Pause us, go and get it. No, don't pause us, just watch it and then do it after, because you won't come
Oh,
back.
well, actually, we'll listen, like, keep
Well,
listening,
take
or
us with you, yeah.
yeah, take us with you. We're like,
We
yeah,
can go through the
I know,
process with you.
I did all my washing today, but, yeah, yeah, we know what it's like. And don't let it go
Yeah.
smelly, because it's the worst when you're standing
Oh,
there and
it's
you're
the
like, "What's that
worst.
smell?" And you're like
And then your
smelling,
flatmates are like, "Hurry the fuck up." Like,
yeah, but, like, have you ever done that
yeah.
thing where you're wearing a t-shirt and you, like, sniff down, you're like, "What is
Yeah.
that?" And then you, like, realize you're like, "Oh, my shirt's smelly, but this is a clean shirt." And then you realize that it's because you left it in the washing machine for, like, maybe half a day
2
extra, and
days.
it's, like, smells nasty. Yeah, so
And
we
it
don't want that
doesn't
for
come
you.
straight out. Like,
No,
yeah,
it
I've
doesn't.
definitely done that. It's the worst. It's the worst because you put it on and you're like, "Oh, it's cool,"
Yeah, it's
and then
clean.
it's fine and it feels dry and you're like, "This is
Yep.
okay." And then maybe it's like a little bit of humidity outside or something, and it's just got a little bit to
Yes.
dampen it back up to get that smell.
It's so gross, but I think that some washing machines nowadays, they make this, like, little noise when they're finished. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could always, like, listen for that noise and be like, "Washing now." So, I mean, there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, you could, but it's still the executive function required
Yeah.
to go and do it. And it's like someone will remind you, like, "Oh, get your stuff out," and it's like, "Oh, the more times you tell me, it's gonna take a little bit longer."
You're like, "I'm not gonna do that."
Yeah, I'm not doing
Um,
that. Like,
it's the worst. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, tips for helping with time, I guess, like, uh, I always leave 30 minutes early. Dan, do you try to leave 30 minutes
yeah,
early? Do you ev
I try. I try to always. It depends what the appointment is, like if it's going to see a friend or something, and it doesn't matter if
Yeah,
I'm 10, 15 minutes late. Like it is what it is. I won't rush out the door. But
yeah.
if it's important, I'll be there. Generally, like 1 minute before.
Ooh, that's like that he's playing it really fine there, people.
I'll
Like,
cut it
I always
so fine.
I can't, that stresses me out too much. I almost have, like, an absolute, like, panic attack because I get worried about the parking situation. Like, I
Oh,
feel
I'll
like,
put the value of my life in Google Maps. I'll be like, it says
ooh,
11 minutes. That is what's happening.
oh, man,
And
I
then,
can't do
and then
that.
20 minutes to find a park.
We're pretty sure in my family that my mum is neurodiverse as well, and she's gone through some initial testing and stuff, and yes, she is. Um, and she was always like really, 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 really late for everything through my childhood, and so like we'd get to appointments late, and then I'd notice that people were really mad. We'd get to school late, we'd be picked up late,
Mm,
and it's not her fault, obviously. Like, it's really hard managing time, but I started to overcompensate as an adult for it because it used to like give me so much anxiety, and so now I'm often more early than I am late. So for our pals
yeah.
out there who overcompensate, I also see you, because that takes a lot of extra planning and stress in order to leave early and to overcompensate for it. So that's hard
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I remember when I was quite young, my mum was always quite late picking me up from school. Or not always, but sometimes, like pretty late. Just sort of like, "Was someone coming?" you know?
Yeah, it's really it's like really like sad as a kid. I used to do the same thing, and my brother would be like, "Mum's not coming," and I'd be like, "Yes, she is," and she'd just be running late, and she'd like scream on in the car and be like, "Get in," and she'd
Yeah.
be still in her work uniform. She'd just be late from work, and it's like I have so much compassion for her now, and especially now that like I struggle with the same thing, and I can see, I'm sure as a kid I was like, "Mom," and it's really hard to put yourself in your parents' shoes at that point,
Yeah, it
when
really
you were a
is.
kid. But now as an adult, I'm like, "Oh man, she was just doing the best she could," and I really feel for her. So I mean, for all the mums out there, you're awesome, even if you're late.
Yeah. So you said your mum started to do some initial testing. Is she going to get some diagnosis, and is she going to look at treatment, or because my mum also, she's not going to go and do testing or anything. She's like, I think I got what you got, and I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Um, and she's like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, well, what do you need to change in your life? Like, do
Mm,
you need to? Are you happy? Are you chill? Like, do you need
mm,
to take medication to be more motivated or anything? And she doesn't. So it's sort of like,
yeah.
well, don't like, learn about it, educate yourself, and there's plenty of
Mm,
ways to manage symptoms and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting, people that are further on in life. It's like,
yeah.
are they going to try and start again? Because fuck, it's brutal in
Mm.
30s.
Yeah, I
Imagine
honestly,
imagine taking
yeah,
off all the masking from like
yeah. From your
us
60s?
from,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it'd
So,
be devastating. You wouldn't know who you were.
I mean, like lots of people get diagnosed later in life and follow the whole process through and do all the right stuff
Mm,
around self-care and like changing routines and behaviors to support neurodiversity. But like, yeah, I guess my mum is I think in the mindset where she's done initial testing and yes, and then now has to like pursue further testing and obviously going to see a psychiatrist. But she said to me like very in the same mind as your mum, Dan. She's like, I already know, and what is it going to change? And I'm like, well, it's changed a lot for me, and
mm.
she's still like a really highly driven career person and
Yeah, okay.
working in her job, and so it's kind of like, mum, like it would make a big difference, and so I think she's still deciding what she wants to do, and I don't want to push her into doing anything she doesn't want to do. But she's definitely listened to lots of podcasts and read a few books I've given her around it. And I think even just my dad being more supportive and knowing, and then like her actually like I've watched her as well go from somebody who was just always like a yes person to like really thinking like what is it going to cost her. So like I've seen her say no a few times to like big things that she knows she finds overwhelming, which is like super cool to watch as an adult, like watching your mum like
Yeah,
learn how to enforce boundaries
set
and actually
boundaries.
be like, no, I know that like that I being around that person doesn't make me feel good, or like going to that will be really difficult for me, and just it's super cool. So I know she's doing things to adapt her life,
Yeah.
which you can do as well. Not everybody has to go down the path of like doing the entire process, which can be really hard and draining in itself.
Yeah, I think it is hard at this age. I think it would be even harder further on. But yeah, I guess it depends what your
Mm,
needs are, and it's if it's and how it's affecting you. Because
hardcore.
you think the amount of things that we had built up,
Yeah.
to use as coping mechanisms or masking or something like that. Like, do that
Mm,
for another 20 years, and I would imagine you would get better at the coping mechanisms and probably
yes.
drop the masking a little bit, because you'd be, like, you've just, I don't know, it's just a lot of time to figure out what works.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's really hard to be aware of something if you're not fully like if you don't know what you don't know, right? So like cuz mum
Yeah.
asked me mum like when I got diagnosed, she said to me like she asked me like what my anxiety or what my hyperactivity, which is like what I get a feeling in my chest of like restlessness and my throat feels really tight and I feel really irritable, and it's like no matter what I do I just don't feel at peace or I don't feel rested. I just feel like I have to keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
Um, which is the hyperactivity element of ADHD. And and often I find that it would just I'd go and go and go and go and go, and I would be physically tired, like I could feel my body being tired, but I couldn't get my brain to stop. And
Yeah.
I'd be getting these really mixed signals in my body where I'd be like, I'm tired, but I have to like my brain was like, you just have to do the thing, get this done, do this, do this, do this. And then like I would get this really tight feeling in my throat where I now know for me that's kind of what I feel like when I get overwhelmed and I just feel like I've hit a wall, but I
Mhm.
can't stop, and it's really stressful. And she asked me, she was like, "Oh, what does because I was explaining to the psychiatrist, she came with me when I went, and I was like, I get this really anxious feeling, and I just like I don't know what to do with myself, and it feels like this." And she was sitting there, and like I could see her face, and she was like, oh my God. And he was
So
like,
she's
Katie,
like, yeah,
yeah. And he was like, that's classic hyperactivity. I was like, I just feel like it's like kind of like I've got a motor in my chest and it just
yeah,
goes. I just can't, well, no matter what I do, I just can't turn it off. And I was like, I was like, I just call it anxiety. And he was like, uh, that's anxious energy, but it's part of hyperactivity.
mm,
And I was like, oh my gosh, like finally somebody told me what it was, because I just thought I was anxious. And then mum said to me the other day, she was like, I would have never ever known that that was hyperactivity or like restless energy, anxiousness. And she was like, because yeah, I didn't even know it was anxiety. I just thought it was a feeling that everybody has. Like,
yeah,
always feels itchy, always feels like you can't unwind, always feels like you can't sit down. And I've watched her for my entire life, like constantly on the go, and that was normal for me too, until I was
yeah,
like, like I was with Kurt, and he's like, "Can you sit down and watch a movie with me without having to do two other things, like fold the washing and also do this thing?" And I was
yeah.
like, "Oh, I didn't realize that not everybody also did two other things while they like had a movie on."
Some
So
people will sit and watch just the movie.
yeah, I was like, I can't, like, I'd have to eat and fold the washing, or I'd have to, like, be
Yeah,
making a cup of tea and be doing something, or like,
yeah,
preparing, like cutting up some melon and watching the TV, and also,
yeah,
get the laundry to fold. Like, I didn't realize that like, like it's really hard too, because women doing lots of things is normalized, especially for a household. So it's hard to know.
mm,
But yeah, so I mean, it's good, because I think it helps, especially our parents and their generation, to realize like once we figure stuff out, the knowledge can be important and helpful for them to pass on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because sort of at, I guess, the age of our parents when they were at school, ADHD and autism or Asperger's, however you say it, like it were sort of semi a thing. You know what I mean? Like it was
But not really.
known.
Yeah.
It was known, but it wasn't really known. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's even now. Like there's so much more research being done and information coming out about it that it's sort of more normal. And I also
Yeah.
think like
Hardcore.
modern life would exacerbate ADHD and anxiety and
Hardcore.
everything because life's fucking crazy. The world's
I
out the
mean,
gate.
yeah, I mean, it would in our modern day society, but I think about if, like, like ADHD. Oh, there's some research to show that ADHD is like a genetic, like,
Hunters.
yeah, it's like an adaptation. It's like something that, like a mutation, a gene mutation that happened because it was like necessary, um, for hunter gatherers. So it's like,
Yeah,
they needed somebody to stay up and be hyper vigilant and to like be curious. They needed innovators, and they needed people to be really aware of, like, specific things like berries. If their hyper
yeah,
focus was berries, you'd know what ones you were going to eat and they were going to kill you. So
yeah. And
it was like,
people to act on impulse, like
yep,
as well in terms of like hunting and protecting the
yep,
village or whatever. Yeah, it's real
yeah.
interesting.
Having
So I
endless
guess,
energy, having, like, being really intuitive to, like, make sure that everybody as a collective was feeling like,
yeah,
tribal. Like, it all like makes sense that it was really useful then. It's just like our society that we're living in now, it's just not seen as super useful, which is
until
kind
it
of
is,
sad until it is. Well, unless you're an
you know.
entrepreneur or you're like a creative. And I mean, it
Mm,
depends on the way you frame it, right? But like,
yeah.
with the stigma, they're kind of saying, oh, these things are annoying, but there are some really amazing gifts that come with it.
Oh, yeah, there's some great things. I would not trade having ADHD for not, you know. I
Ooh,
wouldn't I would keep it for
I mean,
sure.
I definitely, there's some stuff I like, but I don't know. I'm kind of in a double mindset on that one. Like, it'd be nice to just not ride the emotional roller coaster all of the time, and to just to feel like, I mean, it's better now that I'm medicated, but, just I just wonder.